Okay.
Hello and welcome back to the Animal Wisdom World Summit. This is the place for animal lovers and spiritual seekers to connect with the wisdom of all kinds of animals, from family pets to wild animals to animal spirit guides. I'm your host, Dr. Kara Gubbins, founder of the Animal Wisdom Circle and How to Talk to Your Pet, the proven 4-step system that teaches everyone to connect intuitively with their pets or with any animal. And today I'm excited to have Pam Katchelmeyer joining us, and we're going to talk about horse wisdom, a new path of transformation and authentic living. Pam Katchelmeyer is a graduate, or has a graduate degree in equine-assisted mental health and learning, is a master equine-assisted coach and pioneer that teaches the art, science, and skill set of becoming an equine-assisted coach to students all over the world through her innovative and transformational programs. Welcome, Pam.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here this afternoon.
I'm so happy to be here with you. This is great.
Yeah.
What led you into this area of equine-assisted coaching?
Yeah. Oh boy, you have an hour? Well, like many of us, especially in today's modern day world, I was on a quest to do something much more meaningful. And I was working in a corporate role as a property and casualty claims adjuster. And I was 13 years in that business. And I just kept feeling something else calling to me, but I didn't quite know what that was. I just knew there was something that was steering me, and I had no idea what that was. And then one day I was cruising the internet, not even looking for anything, and I came across Prescott College, which is a non-traditional liberal arts college in Arizona. And they were in their second year of this brand new program of the concentration was in equine-assisted mental health and learning, but the master's degree was in counseling psychology. And so I was hooked. So I called the college and I asked them some questions, and I'm like, this is it. This is what I've been looking for. So 3 days later, I was enrolled and literally on their doorstep in Arizona. And that's how I eventually slowly left the corporate world. So I dwelled into learning this brand new modality that wasn't even it was a brand new modality, it was a brand new program, it was a brand new way of helping people in the world that was birthed. And there were some early pioneers back in those days that really took the reins, so to say, and took off with that. And then so I followed that. And then I also traveled the United States because I had to learn, how does this work? You know, you have a human and you have a horse, what comes next? So that's how I got into that. And now when I look back, here I am 13, 14, 15 years later now, teaching others that modality. So.
And what exactly is equine-assisted coaching?
Yeah. Equine-assisted coaching is not horse therapy. It's not equine-assisted therapy. However, I always say therapy and coaching, there's like a fine line. So what basically dovetails each other is just that therapy is helping someone more so with healing things in their past and more geared toward a chemical imbalance or a pathology. So it's more of a team effort when you look at therapy, where you're working with different counselors, therapists, so on and so forth. Whereas coaching is meeting the client where they're at and then going on from there. So the client in equine-assisted coaching is more stable, and they don't need a group of people like a psychiatrist and a counselor or a social worker and things like that. So equine-assisted coaching is helping the client, meeting them where they're at and helping them discover things about themselves. I mean, life coaching is fairly a new endeavor as well, or a new modality. And that too, I think, is still in its infancy, and it's it's shifting and growing as we move on, in this world. So, yeah.
So what does that look like then? Is it people riding horses or going out to a barn and touching horses?
Mhm.
What does it look like in a
Yeah.
practical sense?
Right. And like I said earlier, I had to know you have a person and you have a horse, what comes next? And a lot of clients think that it is about riding, when in reality, it's really not about riding. It's not about horsemanship. It's about helping the client learn things about themselves, discover new things about themselves that they didn't know. And this is where a horse knows what the client doesn't know. The horse, wants to help the client discover new things at a subconscious level and bring them to the surface. So it's not so much about riding. And there are programs out there that started out with riding, but I know there's a lot of insurance carriers too that will not cover riding because there's an inherent risk. I mean, a horse does have a propensity, right, to do a horse thing. And I've seen it where clients, were riding horses, and then the horse would go one way and then the client would go the other way. And it's like, oops, because there's balance involved. There's just a lot more components involved with riding with the horse. So it's not riding the horse, it's all the work, not necessarily in work. I like to call it playing and connecting, is done on the ground. And it's interacting, it's engaging, doing fun things with the horse. And there's so much power in just that alone. So what the coach does is they hold the space, they hold the container for the client and the horse. And that can be like in a field. It could be like in a park somewhere. It could be in a barn. Some people do it in a round pen. It's wherever the connection can occur, but it also needs to be in a safe environment. A safe environment where the client can also trust the coach, and then that client is given the space to develop a rapport, to develop a connection with the horse at a grounded level, at an authentic level. So yeah, there's a lot more in detail to that, but I get into the energy field, I get into the art, I get into the science side of things to help people understand what's going on behind the scenes, because it is very magical and it can be classified too as woo-woo. So because there's a lot of different things that take place between the client and the horse, a lot of times the clients have a hard time putting it into words, being able to articulate it, because it's more of a feeling than being in the head. And to me, what I've learned is that's where transformation takes place, is what the client feels in the body, what's going on inside, and then they work with that. So.
And why horses for this kind of work?
Yeah, why horses? Well, they're in service again to humankind, and horses are different in that they're considered tame yet wild at the same time. In other words, they're considered prey animals. They're not considered predators, like, for instance, a dog or a mountain lion, the other four-legged animals. And because they're considered a prey animal, they're herbivores, but they're also very social. So they're in that social field. And the horse, too, over the years, has helped humankind evolve through so many different generations. And I always say, we wouldn't be where we are today if it wasn't for the horse. And the horse is universal in so many different cultures. So if you look at even our ancestry, going back to even 3, 4, 5, 6 generations back, I like to say horses are in my blood because it's part of our DNA. It's part of my makeup because of my ancestors. And over the years, they've helped from as you read, as others say, and this is real common, you'll hear this in their reading materials, they help people plow fields to the battlefields, to helping people in the coal mining area go down into the caves and the coal mining, all the way to performance horses that were taught how to protect the warrior in battle. And so you hear a lot about the cowboy stories and cowboys and Indians, and a lot of that more so was mechanical, because they had to train the horse in a way to help the human being. Whereas today, the horse, what I say, has come 360. And now they're helping human beings on a much more holistic level. They're going into and looking at the human being and helping the human being find their own spirit. And so that's what the horses represent too, is that spirit, is the freedom of the spirit, is helping the client to become who they really are, become their authentic self. So they're helping the client with today's emotions, with today's, where they feel stuck in certain areas. And then they go round and round and round and round, and then they go, they have their habits. So what horses do today is they help us as human beings really connect with ourselves at a deeper level, and they also help ground us. And it's known scientifically that they reduce our blood pressure, they reduce our heart rate, they increase our endorphins, in the brain, that help us feel good. And one of the biggest outcomes that I've heard over the years is when clients work with horses is they feel such inner peace. And that's what a lot of people are looking for, is that inner peace. And especially in today's world with all the distractions and the technology and the fast-paced society. So they're really helping clients take a different look at, how do I really want to live my life? Do I want to live a meaningful life? Do I want to live a more fulfilling life? Do I want to live my life? And so what horses do is they ask the client, hey, let's look at what's going on in your life and what questions do you have? Let's start with that. And the whys. They ask the whys. So what the horses do, again, is they're helping us in a whole new facet of actually helping evolve humans, and I think it's that way in general with animals in general, and helping human beings get back to nature, because we're 4 generations removed from nature, because we're always in buildings or in our cars or traveling on the road to get to work for 2, 3, 4 hours a day. So we've lost that huge part of who we really are, because we evolved in nature. And so the horses help us get back to nature. They capture us, what they represent, their inner strength, their beauty, their endurance. What do we want more than anything too, is we don't want to be controlled. We don't want to be micromanaged. I don't know if anybody likes to be like that. So again, this is for horses. Again, they're in that family with animals and nature, and they're all interconnected. And they teach us to slow down and to just breathe. Just breathe. And I think people today are going more so to animals because they're lacking the connection with human beings. And how they're getting that connection is through the technological pieces, the handheld devices. So here again, the horses are actually calling people, come back to nature, come back out here where the beauty is, where you listen to the birds, where you kick in your senses. We have our senses for a reason. And they say we mainly have 4 senses, but then we have that 6th sense too, which we use our intuition. And the intuition too is what helps guide us. So when the client is with the horse, the client learns how to go deeper and use their inner voice, their intuition, their gut feeling, and more than anything, their heart. And not only that, the body can't lie. So what happens is the horse picks up on the body and the energy of the client. and the client cannot fake what they're feeling inside, because we're always projecting how we feel inside. And so, yeah, I mean, I can go on and on and on, but yeah, that's pretty much the basis, the underbelly of why horses are so effective today, because we are evolving as a species and we're looking for a more healthy, authentic lifestyle, a way of living. I mean, let's face it, you know, the whole world is in chaos. And so the horses, they're at our side again, and it's growing leaps and bounds. I mean, when I first entered in this profession, it was, nobody knew what it was. I had to go out and educate people about equine assisted therapy and equine assisted counseling and equine assisted coaching. And then there were a whole lot of acronyms because it was so new and people didn't understand what it was about. So that's what I'm doing too, is I'm still educating people what it's about, because a lot of people do think it's about riding. Yeah.
But it sounds like it's more about making a very strong, authentic connection between your coaching client and the horse. And through that connection, all this other healing happens. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. So it's almost the same as if when we meet another person, we start to build a relationship, because a lot of life is about relationships. And I also look at us as human beings. We too are social creatures. We thrive. We need to be around others, and that's how we thrive too, because we need to feel connected. We need that bond. We need that attachment. I mean, look at science that's been done with the monkeys. If there's not that attachment, then you end up with that reactive attachment disorder. So what the horse does too, especially with people that don't trust people, you know, they've been hurt by other people, or maybe let's say they've gone to a whole bunch of different coaches, let's say, and they're not quite finding what it is that they're looking for. You know, maybe some coaches were dishonest with them. Maybe some coaches wanted to charge a lot of money, and what they got as a result of that was more of like confusion. So I'm not saying all coaches are like that, but let's face it, there's people out there, they have one thing in mind, you know. But where the horses want to know how much the client cares. They don't care how much the client knows. So when the client is working with the horse, right, they're building that rapport and they're building that connection, but the horse also has to trust the client. And the horse is saying, okay, well, if we're going to develop this relationship, what do you have in it for me? Can I trust you? Am I going to be able to trust you and invite you into my herd? So in other words, the horse has to invite us into their herd, you know, so we can't just go ramming in there and then being controlling. And that's what happens a lot of times, is we are so, we've been taught, conditioned to control and be perfectionists in order to receive love from others. Whereas what the horse does is it wants the client to be authentic and be their real selves instead of wearing the social mask. And then after that social mask comes down, then the horse says, oh, I'm so glad you took that mask off. Now we can play. Now we can go romp. Now we can go, you know, have fun. And let's go have fun and just live in the present moment. Let's just play and live in the present moment. And so a lot of times when they're engaged with the horse in that way and in that fashion, that's where they find their own true answers, instead of giving their power away to somebody else who they put into like, well, you have all the answers and I don't, you know. So what we do as equine assisted coaches is we help the client discover their own answers. So we hold the space for the client, you know, and then they build that rapport with the horse, they build that relationship, and then it builds from there. So
So, what are some of the lessons that your coaching clients have received from doing this work with the horses?
Some lessons. Well, they've gotten back their own power. I can give you a case study. I used to work with groups of men, and they were actually perpetrators. And there was a group of men out here, and this was a few years back, and they came from an inner city. And they've never been around horses. Maybe a couple of them have, and it brought back really good memories. But a lot of them, come from the inner city. And so they came on a bus. And when they first stepped off the bus, that's where it starts. And they got off the bus and we watched them, and they would look around at the beauty of what the surrounding is. And that there in itself is taking them into an altered state of mind. That's where it starts. And then they have a curiosity, and then they can feel also in their body, because a lot of those people, they suppress their feelings, they hold it in. So then what we do is we engage the men all day long in different activities, experientially doing things. And then so, for instance, we were out in the field with the horses with these men, and I had the men sitting in a circle. And I was explaining, I also like to educate a little bit, how people got to where they are today and things of that nature. And so I was explaining something, I don't remember exactly what I was explaining, but one of my horses kept going towards the man's back. And then the horse would walk away, and then he would come back and put his nose by the man's back again. And he did this like 3 or 4 times. And the man, he was very conscious of that, and he brought it to my attention. And he said, yeah, I'm really not comfortable with anybody being behind my back. So that right there told me I need to work with this man. There's something going on. So he would be someone, if he's open to it, I would like to work with him in a protected, safe space. And so I asked him, and he said yes. So we went and did an activity, the man and the horse and I facilitated the steps. I coached him what to do so he would stay safe. And then he followed through with doing that. And so I went through an activity where I had him go into his body and connect with the different feelings in his body. I had him really go deep and try to get out of the brain and get in the body. And so that's what he did. I totally coached him all the way through that. And of course, I coached him beforehand how to stay safe with the horse, and so on and so forth. So I actually have a round pen, but I don't use it for making the horse go round and round and round and round the circle and run and run and run. That's not what this is all about. That, like horse training stuff. But I coached him on what to do, and he followed through with doing it. And then when he got done, he was a totally different man. And here come to find out, and I didn't know this, he didn't share this with anybody, but he was stabbed in the back with a knife, and he used to be in gangs. And this is what the horse picked up on. And he used to have pain in that part of the body for a long, 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 long time. And so after he was finished with the horse, he actually was moving his body like this, and he couldn't believe it. And then when it was time to go home, he still was sharing the results that he got and what he was feeling. I mean, he was a totally transformed person, a human being. And then they had to travel back to the big city. And then the people that he traveled with, they said he was still in a high all the way back to that big city. So what he was able to do was release some of that negative energy that he's been carrying in his system for years. And that's what people do. We carry a negative energy that gets stuck in our bodies. It gets stuck in our nervous system. It triggers us, when we get triggered with something, and then we hold on to something, we don't breathe. People have very shallow breathing. They don't breathe deeply. And, we hold on to a lot of stuff because we haven't been taught how to release a lot of those frustrations or, negative feelings. And so, yeah, I mean, he was a transformed man. So that's just one particular incident. I had a woman I worked with that was, learning things about herself, and she connected with the horse in a way that was much deeper as well. And she learned how to bond with the horse through her body language, and learned how to trot with the horse in a very slow circle. And she didn't quite know how to do that. So I coached her on that. And then when I said, view yourself as if you're in a bubble with the horse, and then she got it. And then so out of that message too is how that relates. They can relate that to something in their everyday life. Because how we do one thing is a lot of times how we do everything else. We're creatures of patterns and habits. So whatever the client does in that session with the horse is many times what they do in real life. And it's going to come out. So it's life lessons are learned. Number one, becoming aware. Just becoming aware of your habits, and your patterns. And then not only that, thinking, older stories, limiting beliefs. I'm not good enough. I don't have what it takes. I'm lacking. So what the horse does is they challenge the client with that. And it really opens up a different thought, a form of thinking to really, hey, let's take a look at this. Is that true? Is that really true? So the client learns and discovers things about themselves. So we go from practical all the way up to spiritual, because we got people, that want to be with the horse at the practical level, the people that want to be with the horse all the way up to the spiritual level, more of the woo-woo stuff. So then we get into some maybe more ceremonial stuff, that type of thing, meditation, intuition, things of that nature, maybe playing some drums here or there just to get them into that grounded state, things like that. Because horses do represent also, the spiritual side of things, and they help ground us. They connect us again with whatever the client wants to connect with.
Whether the client's aware of it or not, it sounds like, whatever they're there to heal is going to somehow be picked up on by the horse, who's going to bring it up in a way that they can then heal it sounds like.
Right. And everybody's different, everybody's unique. And the thing is, the client will heal when they're ready. But what we do too is we're planting seeds. We're giving them an opportunity to look at things from a different perspective. But not only that, when they're with that horse, there's the feeling, there's nothing like it, because they're part of the wild. And what does the wild represent? It's that freedom. It's that interconnection. It's that energy field, like it's a resonance. If you ever notice, like birds, they all fly in the same direction, they all turn around, they go in the same thing with fish. They're all flying in the same direction, and they turn, they all go in the same direction. It's the same thing with deer and horses. They are so super sensitive, and I say they have extrasensory perception because they have to. They are so attuned to nature because they're a part of nature, and we've removed that from our lives because we are always living indoors. We're always watching the TV or technology, or our technological devices. We've lost that connection with nature and just slowing down. And the horses, and also Einstein said, if you want the answers, go back to nature. Albert Einstein, that's one of his quotes. If you want to find the answers, go back to nature. I mean, everything's there for us. So yeah, I mean, we're in a shifting new world here, and this is where the horses again are really helping us to start to ask the questions. Yeah, so it's a tip of the iceberg, but we're getting somewhere.
And how do you know a horse is ready for being an assistant in your coaching practice?
You know, the horse is ready when they don't say no, when they say yes. They'll walk away if they don't want any connection with the client, because again, you know, we've been taught, and we did this, you know, to protect ourselves. If you really think about it, how smart we really were to protect ourselves, especially if you were a child. And we do this every day, right? But the horse, they want to be with the real person, the real you. And if they feel, see, horses can pick up in a split second. They can pick up before you're even aware of it, of what's going on. And then they'll walk away. Because if they don't, there's different levels of energy, different levels of energy vibration. And even if you look at a person's slouch, it sends a different energy than if a person sits up straight. You know, so what the horses mainly do is pick up on our body language. But then they also pick up on the energy that we exude, which enters into the energy field. So the horses pick this up, and they're like, well, I'm not quite trusting that person. I'm not quite sure. I mean, for example, I had one woman, and she was totally in her head, and she had some issues that she was resisting, and she was talking, and I had the 4 horses standing right behind her. I had her on one side of the fence. The horses were on the other side of the fence. And as she was talking, the 4 horses, they went completely to the other side of the field. And then so as she was talking and processing, and I was asking her questions, slowly the horses came back. And then I asked her to turn around. And then she's like, oh my gosh. Because I had her become aware that the horses had walked way far away. And she knew that. But then as I had asked her to, you know, I involved her with asking her some questions and then getting to the real deeper root of what do you think is really going on here. And then she started to really release and let go, you know, of whatever the energy she was holding on to. Was like, the horse was like, oh, now we can come back. It's okay. Yeah, that's all they ask. They want us to be our real selves and work on our stuff, you know, because they want us to join their herd. They're just waiting for us.
Yeah. So that's why you talk about authentic living then, because that's the desired outcome of doing this work, is that you get to live your whole life more authentically.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And do that healing.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what I hear you saying is that people come to you for an experience with a horse. They may or may not know what they want to heal, but the horses will help kind of draw out whatever needs to come out for them to be healed. And that transformation then allows people to live really much more fully authentic lives, which are, you know, of course, more satisfying, more fulfilling, more happy, you know, more open, all those things. Is that right?
Yeah, very much so. And the thing, what is so cool about horses is when the client is with the horse, we are never without information. What I found is when a client goes face to face with another person, let's say it's a coach or a therapist or counselor, when you're sitting face to face, and let's say it's in a room or even across the desks, by the way, there's a lot of people that don't feel comfortable doing that because a lot of people have anxiety, and depression and anxiety is on the rise today. It's going to be one of the most biggest diagnoses people are going to be given. But when they're with that, you know, client with the horse, we are always with information. Without information, what is what I'm saying, because when you're with that person in the room, sometimes we run out of, okay, I wonder what I should do. I wonder what question I should ask. I wonder what a handheld activity or paperwork they can fill out. Whereas when you're with the horse, it's experiential. And it's a known fact. I think it's 95% of one of the best ways that clients learn is through experiential hands-on. If it's just remembering stuff, I mean, think about when you go and sit in a classroom and you have somebody talking at the front of the classroom and they're talking about material. how much of that do you really retain? Because a lot of it is just going in the head. Whereas where experientially, when they're with the horse, you are never without information because they're moving their body, they're picking in their senses, the sight, the sound, the touch, the hearing. And that's what we are. We're human beings. And we need to be a human being, and live in the present moment too, because we need to feel all, not just the head, but the entire body. So, yeah, so with the horse, there's never a lack. And if you don't know what to do, wait like 2 seconds, all of a sudden something will come in. I guarantee it, and I know it. I've done it enough times, yeah.
I love it. Do you have any final words of wisdom for our viewers about how they can have this transformation and this authentic life?
Yeah. Because I love horses and because I see the magic that they do, the words of wisdom that I would recommend is get out into nature, get among the animals, wild and tame. If you can, go get and take a nature bath and sit and do absolutely nothing. And just pay attention to the animals and the sounds and the colors and the smells. But if you have an opportunity, please go do something with a horse. Even if it's just sitting in their presence. You don't have to be even near them, because some people are afraid, but I can tell you there's a lot of people, they don't let the fear stop them. Them wanting to be with the horse is stronger than the fear, because there's that hidden element that they want to capture. So I would say words of wisdom is go find a nature sit spot and enjoy the scene.
I love that. I love that. I need to do that more often too. I do a walk in nature every day, but it's not every day that I just sit and be.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you, Pam. And if people want to connect more with you, I know you have some free gifts for them and we have a button here on this page for them, but can you tell us about what you have to offer people?
Sure. Years ago, I created Meaningful Life Counseling and Coaching. So I do have a website that they can go to, and then I have a free workbook on finding your passion and life purpose. So it's a workbook that they can download. So if they go to meaningfullifecounseling.com, they'll be able to download that. And then on my current website, which is the Equine Assisted Coaching Association, and that website is equine, EQUINEACA.com, then they can download a free audio, which gives it gives like my story, how I got to where I am today. And then it gives them, I got it listed as 5 secrets, to building a successful equine assisted coaching practice. But there's a lot of information in there that would pertain to anything in life that someone is pursuing. So if they visit those 2 websites, there's the 2 free gifts on there.
Great. I think both those resources will help people with their own transformation and to live more authentic and more fulfilling lives. So thank you for that. And we do have buttons on this page, so people can just click there to get access to both of those, make it nice and easy for you. And I want to remind people that you can also still get your All Access Pass, which is your upgrade so that you can listen to this interview and all the interviews in the Animal Wisdom World Summit anytime, all the way into the future. You get lifetime access to all the information, the insights, the inspiration from Pam and all of the other speakers in the summit. And you want to act now because the price goes up after the summit ends, so you get the best value now. Pam Katchelmeyer, thank you so much for enlightening us about equine assisted coaching and how it can lead to such much more fulfilling lives for everybody.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. Thanks everybody for being here, and we look forward to connecting next time in the Animal Wisdom World Summit. Have a great day. Bye everybody.
Bye-bye.